Doing well.
Which is the final meeting for our final report of the Senate Improving Access to Healthy Foods and Ending Food Desert Study Committee. And we'll start off right quick with Senator Powell to give us a prayer before we start.
Dear Lord, thank you for this beautiful, beautiful day. Help us to do all of those things that are pleasing in your sight for the people of Georgia. And as we move forward, please, please remember those individuals that are sick and shut in, and pray for a better country, a safer country. These blessings we ask in your name. Amen.
Thank you. So as we get ready to start, before I actually begin into the recommendations that we have, I want to start off by saying I want to give thanks to the Senate, the Georgia State Senate, for actually passing this resolution, to Lieutenant Governor Jeff Duncan, Senator Goodman, Senator Gooch, Senator Billy Hickman, and Senator Freddie Sims Powell, who all have basically gone throughout the state to Augusta, Valdosta, also back to Atlanta. And along those lines, I do want to inform the senators that your mileage materials are in the folder. I think last time it was my fault. I think I may have taken them, so that won't happen this time, but all your materials are in your particular folder. And as stated, we have traveled the state and gone throughout the state to deal with this particular study committee. And so we've had the senators and the state Senate to thank, but also I want to make sure we thank Senate staffers, which is Catherine Russell, Beth Vaughn, Andrew Allison, Sabrina Wise, who's my admin, who's responsible for bringing the lunches that we had and making sure that took place. And one time she was absent, we had Administrative Assistant Denise Sampson who helped. Also Melody DeBosi and Holly Carter have all aided into this particular endeavor, and it has been a major endeavor. When we started this particular study committee, I'm not sure we realized how complex it would actually be, and it's going to be one that's probably going to continue, not necessarily the study committee, but the issue is one that's not going to be necessarily fixed quickly, but we're on the path to trying to do something about it. This committee was charged with determining various items. Number one was, where are our food insecurity? And let me go ahead and correct even ourselves. And I'm the one who created this particular resolution where I put in food deserts. But what we've learned over the last few weeks is that really it's food insecurity and not necessarily food desert. So where is the food insecurity? Where does it lie? How does local, state, and national policies deal with food insecurity? We wanted to examine the economic impact that food insecurity has. We wanted to examine any changes that should be made to address food insecurity, and also, of course, examine how the state can partner with local elements and national elements, if possible, to address this particular issue. So I stated our mission actually started off in Augusta, Georgia, which is my hometown, Senate District 22. We also went to Valdosta, and we've been here in Atlanta. And based upon that, we have had over 65 speakers that actually came to talk. That's how complex this issue is, but also very important that this issue is to the people of the state of Georgia. Those persons came from various locations, various expertise. And we also tried to make sure we had similar and opposing viewpoints to come testify. And I think we were able to get some very good statements that were made where persons may have had a difference of opinion how to address this issue. But one thing that came out was that all of them are dedicated to making sure that this issue is addressed and that the citizens of Georgia can be taken care of. Also, I make note for the committee members that when we say we had 65 speakers, that's about 4 to 5 times the amount of most study committees. So you guys have done a terrific job in listening to everyone, and I also want to commend everyone that wanted to speak and the persons that did come and talk with us. And everything that you said was taken to heart, and we have tried to incorporate that into our recommendations. So some of the pertinent issues that we've heard over the last few months is education related to nutrition. That's one issue. Senior hunger, concerns regarding overregulation as far as dealing with food insecurity. And that basically deals with when you talking about different programs like WIC or SNAP. We want to make sure that it's going to be easier for your grocery stores to have access to that. That's one of the issues that came up. Allocating state funds for nutrition programs, access to transportation, also concerns over dollar stores and food access issues. So when these were some of the major concerns that consistently came about through our committee. And so based upon that, we've created 10 recommendations, some kind of go together that we'll be also, of course, voting on in just a few moments. And they're in your packet, and also they'll be available online once we vote on these. Number one is we want to try to create a central website to coordinate resources. Information is key. One of the things that we learned in this study committee is that there's a lot of information out there, and there's a lot of persons trying to deal with food insecurity, but necessarily the residents don't necessarily know where those persons are to deal with these issues. So one of the things we're suggesting is that we have a central website that's going through a state agency that can provide other partners that are dealing with food insecurity, and also where food insecurity is a problem at. Basically like a database that persons can go to and make it simpler for them to understand how their community is addressing this issue. A second, develop a commission made up of legislative members, the governor's office, and community stakeholders. This is something that actually has been done before, but not necessarily on the state level. There was a task force that was commenced, which dealt with grocery store access. They also have what's called a food policy council. These are already councils that exist, but they've not necessarily met as much as they might want to or been funded correctly. So what we need to do is develop a commission, and we could even have some of the same members. That's, of course, will be left up to the legislation, but we need to develop a body that's going to continue addressing this particular issue. But the key thing is that we'll continue to address it on a yearly basis and not necessarily disband. One of the big areas we want to also address is regulation. When we start talking about WIC, we want to make sure that we can make that as open as accessible to our grocery store owners. That was one of the issues. So we want the state to try to have continued conversations with these grocery stores and find out how we can get through the red tape, so to speak, to make sure that they can offer their services to the consumers that need these particular WIC products, because that's very important, because they then can locate into some of these areas. Also, we encourage the continued use of tax credits and incentives. This also corresponds with number 5. This is number 4. It also goes with number 5, where we actually mention one of the particular tax credits, which is the new market tax credit. And so one of the reasons why we say we want to coordinate that is what we found was with the new market tax credit, it's a very complex instrument, and it's something that local governments may have a difficult time actually instituting. So we think that if the state can help partner with some of these nonprofits or some of these entities that are already using new market tax credits, we can maximize those locals, where the locals can get the help that they need in basically accessing those tax credits. And there are also others out there. Food education program, very important. One of the things we learned was that you could place grocery stores in every place that's out there that has food insecurity. But if persons don't have the education to actually want to eat healthy, it's not going to necessarily improve eating healthy habits. So we want to continue to fund educational programs. Strengthen food banks and food pantries, very important, because these are another outlet to actually address the food insecurity problem. We mentioned about the fact of dealing with WIC, not only from a grocery store standpoint, but also from farmers markets. And I think that's going to be one of our big conversations that we got to have as far as our persons who are dealing with those programs, to make sure that people who are dealing with food insecurity issues can have access to make sure they can use those programs correctly. Continue to foster co-ops, small farmers, and community gardens, which also play a role as far as dealing with food insecurity issues. And along those same lines, 9 and 10 basically go together, which is to continue to work with nonprofits that are already existing. And of course, when we talk about, strengthening programs or working with programs, many times we're talking about funding. And so, one of the things I want to tell all committee members is, our next step really is not only giving these recommendations, but hopefully our next step as committee members will be to start drafting legislation that we can get ready to go in January. And I also would hope that as we do that, we allow each of us, since we've been on this particular committee, to sign that legislation, because this is a bipartisan issue. It's an issue that crosses racial lines, class lines. It's an issue that's not dealing with just rural or suburban or urban. It's across the state. So certainly any legislation that we come up with, we want that to be bipartisan legislation that we can all sign our names to and continue to push forward on this. With that, I will open up to any committee members for any comments that they may have. And then from there, I'll accept the motion to vote on the recommendations on the Senate Study Committee. But first, I would like to hear from any committee members if they have any other concerns or any other statements that they would like to make. And with that, so having none, can I have a motion to actually approve the Senate Improvement Access as far as our recommendations are concerned?
This is Senator Billy Hickman. I make the motion that we approve Chairman's recommendations.
Okay, and and also, could I have a motion to adopt the committee report? Committee report.
Committee report.
Yes.
Yes. I offer a motion that we adopt the committee's report.
And is there a second, Senator Goodman?
I second it.
Okay. And with that, I'll ask for all to say in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. And with that, we have adopted the committee report and also the committee recommendations. And I want to thank all the members for their diligent efforts with dealing with this particular issue. And we're going to continue to move forward on this issue. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Absolutely. Thank you. And that will conclude our meeting for today.